And we are on. Hello and welcome to Sports Unhinged. I am Mohammed and I am joined by Coach and Ujitha. Mark has left the wilderness of Nova Scotia and is traveling this week. So, guys, a quick 1 second silence for Mark's absence today. And we are on.
All right, let's go.
We've got a lot coming in. KC collapsing. Case Keenum playing really well for the Browns. The NFL trade deadline. We've got a lot to cover today, but let's start with the cat that is out of the bag. Cincinnati Bengals blowing out the Ravens in a 41-17 win. Burrows has changed the culture in Cincinnati, and I think it's time we take them seriously. What do you think about that, Coach?
Hey, listen, I said it last week. I thought Baltimore would win because I thought they could scheme a one game here and a one game there. My goodness, was I wrong. I liked his comments in the post game. Hey, we knew what they were going to do. We've got to stand up and take the licks and also come back very aggressive against them. And they did. Good play calling, good play succession. Look, they've got a pretty good connection in that quarterback wide receiver from back in their university days.
Jamar Chase.
And I think we mentioned it earlier, but their offensive line has now played 5 straight games together. And that's pretty big in the NFL, right? Especially you think about those right tackle, left tackle, but also how well they've run the ball with Mixon. So, yeah, I think they're a player. I don't think we can sleep on them anymore. Heck, they're number 1 seed in the AFC at the moment.
Yeah, and Ujitha, does this win say more about Cincinnati or the Ravens in this case?
Absolutely about Cincinnati. And you got to go back to what they've done to build this team. You know, on defense, the rebuild, bringing in Larry Ogunjobi, Hendrickson, and, they've turned it from a 27th or 30th ranked defense from 2 years to number 5, something like that at the moment. So, and they've done the same on offense, like Coach just said, Jamar Chase. Everybody thought they'd go for the other guy, Penny Arabiata, whatever his name is.
Right.
But no, they were like Coach said, they went for the connection over the guy, and now they got the guy and the connection. So and also I go back to what Coach said. O-line, they went from something like a 66% grading, I don't know, on the blitz, to now it's like 93% on the blitz. So I'm looking more at this rebuild that they've done, and it's working and it's proving. And they're on their way, man. I mean, watch out for them. Respect to them.
Now, Burrows with a career high 416 pass yards and 3 touchdowns. The Ravens, however, I think there's a lot of concern in the defense. They've allowed 400 plus total yards for the 4th time this season. They're going into a bye week right now. What would you do, Coach, if you were the Ravens defensive coordinator right now? What would you change in that perspective?
Hey, I think the first thing I would do is take a deep breath. They've proven that they can single game scheme you out. Look at their game against the Chargers. What I think they haven't proven is that 3 or 4 or 5 game span, which is what makes an NFL season and playoff contention. I think if they can solidify that, as always, the bye gets you healthy. But I do think that when they come up against a team that's really solid, maybe 50-50 run pass oriented, where they can catch in the run, but also catch in the pass, and they have enough weapons, you can say San Diego might have had that, but Eckler is not as much of a runner as he is in the passing game. So they really did a good job shutting down and making them one-dimensional, and they didn't do that, with teams like Cincinnati. So I think the very first thing in their bye would be solidify, hey, listen, we can run base defense and stop the run, and then we can also run some good scheming against a solid passing team. And look, let's be honest. Let's give credit where credit's due. Cincinnati did their work and did their job when they had to in a divisional game, and you can also flip the script maybe a little bit. It could be Baltimore might have been down. They were up high. They knew they had a competition against Cleveland. I'm sorry, not Cleveland. The Chargers.
Yeah.
And they might have, I don't want to say they took them for granted, but, coming off that high.
I saw a couple of plays, especially at the beginning of the game, a couple of third downs there, and they didn't look like they were ready there. I think they kind of they underestimated their opponent. Now the Bengals go up against a very tough matchup this week against the mighty New York Jets. How do you think that turns out? Was it the Jets that went up against New England last week? Who did New England drop 54 points on?
I don't think it was a team, but I don't know who showed up.
Yeah.
It was some kind of team, though.
Goodness gracious.
Hey, listen, I also think you need to don't count that defense out. They were on the field a lot. I think it was almost a 65-35 split on time of possession on how Cincinnati controlled that. And I think we also mentioned it, if it wasn't, I think it was last week. I don't think running back by committee and the main man in the committee at the moment, your quarterback, I don't think that gets it done against, let's say, upper echelon competition like Cincinnati. So I think that might help their defense as much as anything.
Okay. All right. Now let's switch gears over to the game that everybody was looking at last week, which is KC against the Tennessee Titans. And we witnessed a collapse like none other from the Kansas City Chiefs, being held to less than 10 points, with the exception of the Super Bowl. But in the regular season, this was the first time ever in the Mahomes era to be held to less than 10 points. Mahomes throwing an interception in his sixth straight game. Even Jameis Winston and Carson Wentz have a higher QB rating than Mahomes this year. Are KC drunk on their own success, Ujitha? What is going on out there? I think many have called the season off. That's it. It's over for KC. They're not making the playoffs. Coach, I'm going to get back to you because you made a statement last week that I'd like to revisit. But Ujitha, first of all, are KC drunk on their own success?
Well, to answer your question about is the season over, they're 3-4 now, and looking at their schedule, and if they keep lighting up this festival of garbage, they're going to end up 7-10, 6-11, and with all these other teams in the AFC probably going 8-9, 9-8. I don't know. It's tough to say, but I got to go back to my assessment last week. And as I think POTUS 43 once said, there's a saying in Tennessee or Texas, he wasn't sure, but fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, never fool me again. Right? So coach was damn right. You can't judge. You couldn't judge KC by that half of football in Washington, which it's on me. But if you want to call time of decline on this on Mahomes, that's February 7, 2021. Super Bowl. All right. Before that, Mahomes had never had a blowout game, more than 8 or 10 points. Since then, until now, it's 3 games. One more thing that happened at that Super Bowl, he was the most pressured quarterback in NFL Super Bowl history.
But now teams are not pressuring him. They're stepping back and letting him pass the ball. There's no pressure.
Yeah, but what is he doing? He's still playing to that.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So no matter how bad this defense is, we won't even talk about defense anymore of KC. That looks unfixable. But to me, right now, it's Mahomes or Mahomes' psyche that's been affected. We talked about him, wriggling out of a clean pocket. Yeah, but if you look at last week's game, he's not even comfortable with his reads anymore.
He almost got injured really bad, really badly injured almost.
Yeah, and because he's just moving. I mean, there was even some rare good protection by that O-line, and even in that protection, you had receivers waving their arms on first read, some of them, and he wasn't hitting them. So if he's doing things we've never seen from him before,
right?
And
not in a good way,
not in a positive way, absolutely not. So I think he just needs to calm down. He's got to go back to being a pocket passer. Just forget this wriggling around. Even check down if you have to. Go through your progressions. One thing Coach was surprised about last week was he's the league leader in touchdowns.
I don't think he is anymore now with last week.
Yeah, up to last week, right? And they had the league success rate, drive percentage. But last week, the second half, they had 54 plays, 17 minutes. scored 3 points.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So something's wrong there.
So,
and,
Coach, that
it's
leads
not-
me to the statement you made last week. You said even if they lose this game, you don't believe that the season is over. Now that you've looked at the way they lost, I mean, 27-3, completely decimated. A lot of, I mean, if there weren't all the red flags raised, now there are. Do you stick by your statement, or judging by the way they lost, are you ready to kind of say that their season is over?
Well, the good news is they get to play the Giants this week.
Mm-hmm.
And that went from a normal blowout to, maybe a good game, as we say. I want to stick by my statement, but I'm a little bit iffy. Maybe I'm jittery like Mahomes is in the pocket.
Yeah.
I don't believe they play cohesive enough on defense to support the offense. And I don't believe that the quarterback himself has faith enough at any moment in the pocket to see the guys waving their arms. I think, they always say you're good quarterbacks. They have that, stopwatch in the back of their head. I think his stopwatch has continuously shrunk since the Super Bowl, as Ujitha said. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I really like their coach. I like him as a quarterback, but I think, it's likely that until they can get some support on defense and get him more comfortable, I think they're in trouble. I wouldn't say their season's over just because they have some pretty winnable games in 4 of the next 6. Because, let's not forget, they've got Denver a couple of times, right?
Pittsburgh.
Let's not forget Pittsburgh's just not lighting it up. Along with the Giants, they've already beat the Washington football team. I think that means they get Philly at some point. No offense to Philly, but they're not lighting it up either. Look, I don't know. I mean, because there's
no, they don't
wild
get
card
Philly
opportunity. Oh no,
Philly
yeah,
game's
that's right.
done.
That's done.
That already happened. Yeah,
that's right. But I think there's enough wild card opportunities. And look,
Okay.
they're in the middle of the AFC. So if they can get to 9-8, 10-7, they've got a
Maybe
chance.
sneak in. I don't see it.
But I don't know
see
if
it.
they
I
can
think
win
Ujitha,
10
yeah.
games.
I don't see it.
Something drastically has to change. So
I'll stay on the fence of my statement.
You got Coles, you got New England, maybe, Pittsburgh. It's going to be a tough one. Their schedule, it's tough.
Hey, listen, I listened to a podcast earlier today, and it was a guy from Vegas who was saying, look, if today the Bengals and the Chiefs played on a neutral field, who would be favored? And he's a Vegas guy, and he said Cincinnati by more than a touchdown.
Wow. That is quite a statement.
And he's a guy helping Vegas name these lines. So, you think about that for a minute. If let's say it's a touchdown, if it's at home, it becomes 10 points. And even if it's in Kansas City's a dog to 3.
Wow.
Or 3, 4, 3.5, 4. So who knows?
That's where we are.
Now, in terms of MVP candidates, usually those go to the quarterbacks. And Derrick Henry was like, no problem. He threw for a touchdown there. Is he the leader in the MVP race right now?
Oh, I think probably. Yeah, I think that was a gadget play, but I noticed in the game, and I watched the game, I think, I also read the stat. They had 7 men in the box on 68%. On 68% of the running yardage plays, they had 7 or more. I think it was 7 or more in the box. So, even my statistician said, hey, listen, he only had 80 some odd yards. And I said, yes, but because they're putting 6, 7, 8 in the box, they're daring Tannehill to throw it. Well, what did he do with his with his new wideouts back, or his number 1 and number 2 wideouts back? He lit them up, and he was very precise. I think he threw for 78% last week. So maybe I think Henry. You talk MVP. Other than Brady, give me one who's better.
Yeah, yeah.
Burrow,
Now, I've seen a
maybe?
lot of talk about whether
Maybe
KC are the
Burrow.
most disappointing team of the year so far. But for me, it's the most shocking decline that we've seen. But in terms of disappointment, Miami is still for me the most disappointing team
Definitely.
of the year.
Yep.
I mean, they went from being 13th in the NFL as a team to 29th right now, and I think in terms of expectations, and we'll get to the trade talks later and what they're doing with their quarterback. For me, it's between Miami, Cleveland, and AC, but Miami is probably the most disappointing so far for me. Okay, now let's transition over to the Cleveland Browns. Now, Case Keenum on Thursday Night Football did enough to win that game. I don't think there was a big difference in terms of their performance or whether Baker Mayfield was on there or not. Is Case Keenum's performance right now a nightmare scenario for Baker Mayfield, who's hoping for a $35 million a year contract? Ujitha, what do you think?
Right, well, you got to look at it in two ways here. One way is Cleveland's playing behind a good O-line and their running game and a great defense. Okay, so Baker was better at management, game management, offense management, and some would argue, hey, that's enough. And then you could get something out of him, a big play here and there from Baker, him running for a touch, whatever. Okay, Case Keenum pretty much did the same thing. Let's not forget, Case Keenum went to the NFC Championship a few years ago. He threw for almost 4,000 yards 2 seasons in a row. Yeah. So it's something for Cleveland to think about. Yeah, but I think they stick with Baker. No need to hurry him back. That's for sure. They'll probably see what Keenum how he can manage this Cleveland offense for a couple of more games. No need to hurry him back, but I think end of the day, they still go with Baker, whatever happens.
No, but not long term. I mean, he becomes an unrestricted free agent in 2023, which means that contract talks are going to happen end of this season onwards, and he'll probably be given a deal. So, Coach, if you were the Cleveland Browns, do you give Baker Mayfield a long-term contract with guaranteed money, or do you do like a 70 million 2-year contract with 60 million guaranteed, for example? Do you go short-term and test it out there, or do you bet the house and say this is my franchise quarterback going forward?
Oh, I think the ways of the NFL will probably be the Kirk Cousins way that Washington did him a few years ago.
Or the Jimmy G, 5-year, 137 million,
Yeah, but I think what Washington did with Cousins is they franchised him a couple of years and gave him approving 1 year and then approving 2 year. I can see Cleveland doing that because, look, let's be honest. He hasn't proven he's a top 5, maybe not even a top 10 quarterback as far as that upper echelon. I can win games as a QB, and you can put it on my shoulders. I think he's a good game manager. I don't think he's any better of a game manager than Case Keenum, right? It's funny, Ujitha was saying that. My mind goes back to Trent Dilfer and Baltimore, the year they won the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not saying Cleveland has the defense Baltimore had that year, but a very much of a game manager, not going to turn the ball over, hit the right spots when he needs to hit the right spots, not lose games. And I can see that, being what they do. But yeah, I don't anticipate him getting a long-term gig unless he comes back and they win like they did last year. Would they win 6 of their last 8? So I think if that happens, he'll be a hot commodity, and they might do it. But I don't see that, that 5-year, that 6-year, that 7-year extension like we've seen in some of these guys coming on to their second deal. I just don't see that as the ways of the NFL anymore. I mean, geez, look at Miami. They're trying to get out of their guy, and he's still on his rookie contract.
Right. Okay. Now, before we move on to the NFL trade deadline, Ujitha, I wanted to talk a little bit about your head coach, Nick Sirianni, because he was on a press conference this week where things got pretty weird pretty quick. So I think my question to you is, are you watering and are you fertilizing at the moment? That was really strange, man. I'm like,
No one really knows what they're growing in Philly at the moment. I'll say that. Yeah. I mean, there's. I mean, it's a bit like your Panthers, you know.
yeah, our
There
coach is
is.
not saying any stupid stuff. I mean,
Well,
there's a lot
yeah,
that's
I
wrong
mean,
in
he
the
might as
Panthers,
well
but
start saying stupid
Flipped
stuff.
it,
So
flipped it.
you know, you go to that instead of what's really happening on field. So, truth be told, I didn't see the press conference. I guess I gotta go check it
oh
out.
well, he compared what's happening in Philly to growing a flower, and what's going on right now is that they're watering and they're fertilizing, and there's
Right.
growth in the roots under the soil, but you really can't see the results just yet. It got really weird.
Yeah, I'm with him on that. I am with.
All
I
right.
mean, it's been growing for 4 years since Super Bowl, but these things take time. But
You're growing probably a potato, which stays on the ground. You don't.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, there is nothing happening enough. There's nothing even to talk about at the moment. So
But now, all right, let's
you
get
got
serious.
Detroit coming up. Let's see.
Let's get serious for a bit, because now there's a lot of chat that I saw today in the talk shows and everywhere throughout this week, actually, when they're talking about the possibility of benching Jalen Hurts, simply so that the Eagles can figure out who's at fault right now. Is it Jalen Hurts is not playing up to his potential, or is it a coaching problem? And as long as they're both, he's calling the plays, he's the head coach, Jalen Hurts is on the field, you're not able to separate. I think I looked at Speak for Yourself on ESPN, and Marcellus Wiley, who said you cannot arbitrate if you don't separate. So are you in the are you in the kind of on the side of people like that are saying let's bench Jalen Hurts and really see if Sirianni can actually coach or not?
Oh, it's a bit of both, right? And I don't think Jalen Hurts should be benched. It's got to do a lot with the play calling. I mean, that last game alone, there was a lot of stuff. The onside kick at the half. I mean, it was all downhill from there. But if you look at what Jalen's doing around the pocket, most of the time it looks like he really hasn't got a play. He's gasping for air. It's kind of like Mahomes a little bit.
Right.
He's moving around. There's no run game going on, so there's no play action going on. So they're really not giving him in the first few weeks. They let him be what he wanted to be, and it worked out a bit. But then you come against the better teams. He really doesn't know. He doesn't have a play to go to, and so he tries whatever he can. He tries to wheel out. It works some of the time. But most of the time, this offense just stays off the field. The defense is on more. They get gashed, then they give it up. So I think it's more on the play calling than Jalen Hurts. I don't think it makes a difference.
I could really relate. The whole time I was listening to those debates, all I can think about is my Panthers, and I want them to bench Sam Darnold because I want Joe Brady and Matt Rule to get exposed. It's just horrible. It's just horrible. I mean, to lose to the Giants in that way, that was absolutely terrible as well. Okay, let's move on to the NFL trade deadline. Now, there are quite a lot of big names that are in circulations, Allen Robinson, Nick Foles, Brandon Cooks, but we have to start with the massage specialist there, Deshaun Watson. Coach.
The masseuse.
I mean, news is broken that Miami have finalized the deal, but have a couple of pending things that they want cleared before the beginning of November. I don't know how that's going to happen. One of them being the legal problems, and number two, getting clarity from Roger Goodell on whether he'll be put on the commissioner's list or not. Looks like a very unrealistic kind of timeline for these things. What do you think about, first of all, Miami even considering him and getting to the point where they're finalizing a deal? And number two, the two conditions that they've put that look completely unrealistic. What happens there?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, we're in uncharted territory, I think, in terms of deals like this and potentials like this. I think I was listening earlier to a group talk about what it would take to get him to move anywhere: Denver, Philly, Miami. Carolina, and they were talking about all 3 number ones. Well, have we ever seen any deal where all of the trades are conditional, right?
Yeah.
Based on number of percentage of playing time. And I just don't think we've seen that before, right? And I think, the owner's right. He wants to hedge his bets. I mean, you're talking about $1 billion franchise. Now, on the flip side of that, as the father of 2 daughters, I hope he never plays another down if what they are saying is true. Yeah.
And it means that he'll have to settle all of the, allegations. He needs to settle all of these cases, 22 of them, out of court in a matter of a week.
Right. But, no, not necessarily. So as we'll call him Roger, as Roger has said, we don't have enough data. We don't have enough information to keep him off the playing field at the moment. And it's already been published that none of this is going to happen until February 2022. It's just the way that COVID has jammed up the court docket in Texas or in that particular district court, right? And so can you keep him off with such little information? It's not like so far, it's not like there's a video running around similar to Ray Rice, right?
Right.
And then everything that happened to the 4 or 5 other people that are similar, Ben Roethlisberger comes to mind. They did have victim statements that were a part of the criminal record or affidavit. Well, they don't have those because they're not out yet. And so I think he more or less said that in his statements on Tuesday. Look, we're with you. We value what you have to say and what you're saying, but we also want to err on the side of caution here. And I think they more or less said it, silently but loudly. Look, we're not going to suspend him. You want to trade for him, he'll play. Now, how much he'll play in 2022, I don't know. So if I'm Miami, am I so far out of it that it doesn't matter and I might not care about his 2021 playing time and I don't trade for him because he might be out 2 games, 4 games, 6 games, 17 games in 2022? Well, then it's not worth it for me.
But are Miami too quick to give up on Tua?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I just don't think 16 games are good enough. Josiah and I were listening to a podcast earlier today from Peter King, if you know who he is, a famous former Sports Illustrated writer. Now he has his own podcast, MMQB, I think. He was saying that in today's day and age, Phil Simms would have already been traded twice on how well he underperformed his first 16, 18, 20 games. And here we are talking about Tua in his 16th or 17th game this next week, and we're saying he's washed up, he's done. Hey, listen, he threw for over 400, had his highest percentage of completion last week. Yeah, he threw a couple of idiot passes, fair enough.
Right.
But are we really going to judge him and give up on him after 16, 17 games? Is that what we do now in the NFL? Unfortunately, I think that's right. But my old coaching guy and old fashionedness just says, what is it? The Green Bay quarterback says, look, relax. Just chill for a bit. Let's. He says, I own you, but let's see where we are after 20 games, 25 games. And look, let's be fair to Tua. They're not losing games because of him. They're losing games because their defense went into hibernation at some point between game 16 last year and game 2 this year.
Yeah. All right. And Ujitha, what other trades are you looking for before the trade deadline there?
Well, Philly could use OBJ if Cleveland's willing to.
If dealing, that would be an interesting one.
Yeah, we could use a wide receiver. I saw Matt Breida. Buffalo might be wanting to. Buffalo's not a seller, but if they get a good call on Matt Breida, they might let him go. Like you said, Allen Robinson, Nick Folk, a lot of
Allen Robinson. There's been kind of talk that that he might go to the Ravens or to Indy. Both of these need a good wide receiver, so they might be trading for him. Also, Brandon Cooks going from Houston to GB has been talked about quite a bit. Nick Foles going to the Saints, and that's one they should probably go for. I don't know. Jameis Winston has never been convincing. Nick Foles, at the end of the day, you can't take a Super Bowl away from him.
Jameis hasn't been all bad this season. I'll tell you that. He hasn't been all bad. He's not the crazy old Jemias throwing interception guy. Yeah.
Who got traded to the Jets on Monday?
Somebody did get traded to the Jets.
From
I
Philly.
can't remember.
Oh, Flacco.
Joe Flacco.
Oh, Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, because Zach Wilson's doing a great job there. They needed Flacco as back.
You know, back to your Saints comment, I think Taysom Hill is out for 4 more games because of his injury. And so I think they need a good, solid, veteran backup. I don't think Foles is coming in to be the starter by any means. I think, New Orleans and Peyton are sold on him, but look, you're one play away.
Yeah.
Yep.
For me in Carolina, I think that they just need an offensive lineman. That's the one thing they should be looking for. And the one that comes to mind is Will Hernandez from the Giants. Not an all-star, but he'll give us that flexibility. And we need to start filling the O-line with people that can play. It's just terrible at the moment. Also, there's a lot of chat about Denver possibly dealing Melvin Gordon because they've got Javonte Williams, who's shown that he can actually get the job done. So maybe they get some value out of Melvin Gordon when he's still looking good. But yeah, a lot of
I saw
trades.
one for Von Miller as well.
Yes,
which was a bit surprising, but he could have some value if they want to trade him off now.
Well, I think he has a very cap-friendly contract going into 2022. Right? So his 2022 number can be usable for some people. What I saw him to is it Arizona this morning. So with JJ going out, I saw him to Arizona, but they have to give. I think I saw a conditional number 1.
Okay. With JJ Watt's injury, do you think his career is done?
Yep.
Is that one too many injuries for him? Does he retire at the end of the season? Yeah.
Yep. I do.
Yeah.
I think if he's out for the season, I think he's done.
Wow. Okay. Let's wrap up with, obviously we're recording this Thursday night before the Thursday night game. So we've got the biggest game of the season. We cannot let that go. Green Bay at Arizona. Green Bay are without Devontae Adams and Lazard. So the wide receiver core is pretty much out of the game. This was supposed to be an exciting game, possibly a close game. Do you still see it that way, Ujitha?
It's Green Bay. It's Aaron Rodgers. It's always
with no one to pass to. I mean, who is he gonna? Is he gonna turn back the clock and go to Randall Cobb every time? I don't know.
Listen, so this is what Green Bay does. They've especially this season, they're finding a way to win. They're gonna make you play for 60 minutes. They'll find a way to win. And by the way, Green Bay is 6-0 without Devontae Adams. Yeah, when they've played him, and I don't know.
Yeah, but they never played a 7-0 team who can throw it around the yard like Arizona.
So here's the thing. Since 1970, 10 times teams who won six or more W's coming together, only one has covered ever since 1970. So, that's a stat you can't live by, but it is dangerous to go against Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. Seriously. And what's the line? Is at 6.5 at the moment?
Yeah.
Arizona might win the game. I mean, they probably will, but I won't fully bet on Green Bay will come close. I think he'll find a way. They'll run Aaron Jones a lot. I don't know if Scantling is back as well.
No, he's not.
All 3 are out.
Well, I mean, it'll be tough, but people die when you go against Green Bay. I mean, worldwide hunger and stuff like that. So you got to be careful.
Mohammed, what do you think?
For me, I've been going kind of back and forth on this one, but looking at your number 1 wide receiver, your number 2 wide receiver, your number 3 wide receiver being out, I don't see it happening. Arizona are too strong right now, even without JJ Watt. I think it's a blowout for Arizona. I don't even think that it's close. I think Arizona completely capable of scoring 3 to 4 touchdowns. And I see kind of some kind of reflection of week one Green Bay coming back a little bit, where they don't know what to do and they just can't get it started. I see that those kind of struggles, and people will be quick to jump on Green Bay because of that. But I think having all of their players out, you can't really blame them. Yeah.
So let's say that Rodgers plays an average game, maybe above average, even without his receivers. Does Green Bay have the defense to stop that offense? I mean, you're talking Hopkins is what? He's second with touchdown receptions. You've got Kirk making a big deal. You've got the rookie Moore. Their running game's kind of starting to get in it. They killed Houston on the screen game last week.
Right.
So,
well, everyone's caught up to that screen game of Houston, and that's all they had.
Yeah. So, well, with that thought, let's wrap it up. Thank you guys for an excellent episode. Make sure that you subscribe, like, and comment at the bottom. This has been Sports Unhinged. We'll see you guys in the Pick 6 segment.